My name is Sarah Bennett, and at 28, I thought I'd finally clawed my way into a life that made sense. I just landed the biggest client on my marketing career at Brightwave Solutions, a Denver tech startup that was about to explode. 3 days of back-to-back meetings in Seattle, signatures on contracts worth $2 million in recurring revenue, and I was flying home on a cloud of pure adrenaline. The only text waiting for me was from Karen Whitaker, president of the Pinecrest HOA. Sarah dear, we need to speak the moment you return. Community matters. I figured it was another one of her lectures about my creative clutter, or the fact that my home office window had the wrong shade of beige curtains. Pinecrest looked like every other shiny suburban dream. Manicured lawns, identical beige houses, zero personality allowed. But underneath the perfection sat a web of bylaws thicker than a phone book and enforced by Karen like she was protecting the gates of heaven. I bought my little two-story on Maple Lane 2 years earlier because Denver rents were insane and the HOA promised stability. Karen had personally welcomed me at the closing with a basket of artisanal soaps and a smile that never reached her eyes. "We're like family here, Sarah," she'd said, patting my shoulder. "Family supports each other as long as everyone follows the rules." I was the youngest homeowner by 20 years, the only one in a so-called unpredictable creative field, while the board was stacked with doctors, lawyers, and architects who treated Karen like a queen. I paid my dues on time, volunteered for the community newsletter, even redesigned their sad little website for free. In return, I got citations for grass half an inch too tall, fines for parking my work SUV 2 inches over the invisible line, and constant reminders that my job didn't contribute to neighborhood values. The Seattle trip was supposed to be my victory lap. I'd pitched Cloud Vault Industries a campaign that would put Brightwave on the national map. The week before I left, I'd made the mistake of mentioning the commission at the monthly HOA social hour Karen hosted in her perfectly staged living room. The board had gone quiet the way they always did when I spoke. "That's lovely, dear," Karen had cooed, her pearl necklace gleaming like a weapon. "Though commission income is so unstable. Dr. Reynolds, tell everyone about your new research grant." I spent the rest of the evening listening to everyone else's accomplishments while mine evaporated. Still, I boarded the plane determined to prove something to myself, if no one else. I even stopped at Pike Place and bought thoughtful gifts, specialty coffee for Dr. Reynolds, a first edition legal thriller for attorney Lang, architectural prints for architect Hayes, and for Karen a vintage pearl necklace that reminded me of the one she'd once bragged about selling to fund her son's college. Small peace offerings to the people I stupidly thought were my community. Now the Uber dropped me at the curb, and my stomach sank. The driveway looked like a crime scene. Dozens of black garbage bags sat in neat rows, my entire life twisted inside cheap plastic. My laptop bag slid off my shoulder as I stared. The front door opened, and there they were, Karen front and center, flanked by the rest of the board like a twisted neighborhood portrait. "You're back early," Karen said, voice dripping that syrupy concern she used when issuing violation notices. "We expected you tomorrow." The meeting wrapped ahead of schedule. I managed voice hollow. "I texted you." She didn't even glance at her phone. I gestured at the bags. "What is this?" Karen stepped forward, positioning herself between me and the door like a bouncer at a club I'd never been cool enough to join. "It's time, Sarah. You're 28. This arrangement was always temporary." Temporary? The word came out as a laugh that scraped my throat raw. "I paid every dime of dues. I redesigned your website for free. You begged me to stay and help with the community events." Dr. Reynolds shifted, hands in his pockets like he was scrubbing in for surgery. "Be reasonable, Sarah. You've had 2 years of basically free stability. Half the assessments aren't free," I snapped. The 1,000 hours I spent fixing the common area landscaping after that storm wasn't charity. Attorney Lang was already tapping her phone, probably calculating billable hours for this ambush. "You need to grow up," she said without looking up. We all followed the rules and moved on. Coasting? My voice cracked. "I just landed a $2 million client." Karen interrupted smoothly. Commission-based income doesn't count, dear. And living in our beautiful neighborhood while playing with computers isn't a career. It's time you faced reality. Architect Hayes, usually quiet, finally spoke. We discussed this while you were gone. It's what's best for Pinecrest. While I was gone, the words tasted metallic. You planned this while I was closing the biggest deal of my life. Karen's expression hardened into the look she reserved for homeowners who dared plant the wrong flowers. The neighborhood needs to be compliant. We've had an offer. The ground tilted. An offer? You're selling my house? It's under HOA lien procedures, she corrected with a smile sharp as broken glass. And yes, the market is perfect. Riverside Development offered 3 times the assessed value. Your board understands the importance of smart financial decisions. I looked at each of them, searching for cracks. Dr. Reynolds wouldn't meet my eyes. Attorney Lang kept typing. Architect Hayes stared at the garage like it held state secrets. And my equity? Silence stretched like a tripwire. There won't be any, Karen said finally. The proceeds are being invested in a community venture. A real opportunity for those of us with stable careers and proven track records. A community venture that didn't include me. You're welcome to invest once you've established yourself properly. Perhaps in a few years when you have a real job and a legitimate address, we could discuss it. The gifts in my carry-on felt like lead weights. The pearl necklace I'd spend hours choosing now seemed like the desperate offering of a kid trying to buy belonging with trinkets. So you waited until I was 3 states away to pack everything I own into trash bags. Attorney Lang finally looked up. We thought it would be easier. Less dramatic. I laughed then, really laughed, the sound bouncing off houses that had never felt like home. Less dramatic. You turned my life into suburban landfill and thought that would be less dramatic. Don't be hysterical, Karen said, the ultimate HOA dismissal. Your friend Lena said you could stay with her. We called to arrange it. See? We're not monsters. They stood there, my so-called community, waiting for me to disappear like an eyesore they'd finally sighted out of existence. The Seattle sun had warmed my face that morning as I signed contracts, feeling like I'd finally arrived. Now under Denver's gray sky, I understood I'd always been the outsider, the one whose creative job threatened their perfect little kingdom. I need to get my things, I said, moving toward the bags. Dr. Reynolds will help you load them, Karen replied, already turning back inside. We have a board meeting at 6. He helped in silence until the others retreated. As we lifted the last bag, something sharp poked through the plastic. Dad's photo from my nightstand, the one of us laughing on my first bike ride. Sarah, he whispered, glancing at the house. There's something you should know. I slammed the trunk. Unless you're about to say this is all a prank, I don't want to hear it. The house, my house, sale closed yesterday while you were in Seattle. 3.2 million cash. Karen timed your trip on purpose. My keys hit the asphalt. She'd been negotiating for months. The community venture they mentioned? They've already incorporated Pinecrest Holdings LLC. You're not listed anywhere. The breath left my lungs. You knew. I found out last week. Tried to warn you, but Karen said if I did, I'd be next. I have kids, Sarah. College funds. Karen made it clear. Either I was in or I was out like you. I stared at this stranger wearing my neighbor's face. So you chose money over me. I chose my family, my real one. No. Karen's voice sliced the air. She'd reappeared on the porch, arms crossed. Community supports each other. Community makes something of itself. Community doesn't play with internet trends and call it a career. Reynolds, inside now. He mumbled an apology and scurried away like a scolded dog. Karen remained, queen of her beige kingdom. The Cloud Vault deal, I said suddenly. That commission alone is worth more than whatever hypothetical returns you're chasing. She waved a hand. This is real estate, Sarah. Physical assets, not whatever it is you do with those little computer programs. It's a signed contract. Then you should have no problem finding your own place. Her smile was arctic. Consider this motivation. You've always needed a push. Just one question I asked hand on the car door. Did my dad know what you really thought of me when he helped me buy this house? For the first time, something flickered in her eyes. Your father was a dreamer like you. It's why he left you in this position. He died of cancer, Karen. Not poor planning. Same result. I did what I had to do to protect this community's future. The strong support the weak until the weak become strong or remove themselves from the equation. She turned toward the door. You've been removed from the equation. Lena's apartment smelled like coffee and the kind of sympathy that comes with emergency wine. She cleared out her home office without being asked, turning it into a makeshift bedroom with an air mattress and a card table desk. The first night, I sat surrounded by garbage bags, pulling out my life piece by piece. Karen had been thorough. Even the half-empty shampoo bottles were wrapped in newspaper like she feared I'd come back for them. I'm going to murder her, Lena said for the 100th time, refilling my glass. Like actually murder her. I know where to hide bodies. I watch true crime. She's not worth the jail time, I replied, unfolding a shirt that still smelled like the lavender dryer sheets Karen bought in bulk for the whole neighborhood. Besides, she'd probably haunt me about the quality of prison jumpsuits. But behind the dark humor, something sharper was forming. I'd spent 3 days cycling through rage and devastation. Now, with my laptop open, I felt curiosity click into place like a camera shutter. Show me the incorporation documents again, I said, pulling up the Colorado Secretary of State site. Sarah, you need to let this go. Focus on finding your own place. Maybe a therapist. Pinecrest Holdings LLC was filed 2 months ago. I turned the screen. 2 months, while I was working 18-hour days prepping for Seattle. They were incorporating a company to steal my equity. I dug deeper, following digital breadcrumbs through public records, social media, and Denver's tight-knit business gossip network. My marketing brain went into overdrive, pattern recognition, risk assessment, trend analysis. Attorney Lang's husband had posted about an exciting community investment opportunity on LinkedIn 3 weeks ago. Dr. Reynolds joined a private real estate group on Facebook. Karen had been tagged at multiple meetings at Riverside Development's offices. What are you doing? Lena asked, watching me screenshot everything. Research. It's what I do for a living, remember? Understanding markets, spotting red flags. I pulled up Riverside's filings. Look at this. 3 projects in 5 years, 2 bankrupt. So my neighbors just handed over $3.2 million to a company with a 40% failure rate. The next 2 weeks became a masterclass in quiet detective work. I leveraged old clients for introductions, coffee with a commercial real estate blogger, drinks with a Denver Post business reporter, a LinkedIn message to someone at the state attorney general's office. The picture that emerged was breathtaking in its stupidity. Riverside wasn't just risky, it was radioactive. Under investigation for misrepresenting property values. Their CEO quietly removed 2 months ago. The Pinecrest Community Enhancement Project, built on contaminated land that would cost millions to clean up, a fact buried in environmental reports none of them had bothered to read. You could warn them, Lena suggested one night while I hunched over my laptop at 3 a.m. With what credibility? I'm the creative failure who plays with computers, remember? I pulled up Karen's Facebook where she'd posted about building generational neighborhood wealth. Comments overflowed with congratulations from church friends and retirees. Besides, they made their choice. They removed me from the equation. The real gold came from architect Hayes' wife, Marina. She'd always been kind, maybe because she knew what it felt like to be the lesser one in Karen's world. When she called to apologize for her husband's silence, I was ready. I'm worried, she confided after small talk. Hayes invested everything, the kids' college funds, emergency savings, even borrowed against his 401k. Karen said it was guaranteed. Nothing's guaranteed, Marina. But she had documents, projected returns, promises. Dr. Reynolds brought in 3 doctor friends. Attorney Lang got half her firm to invest. They're raising more money, targeting retirement communities, saying it's a can't miss. My stomach turned. Retirement communities? Mostly Karen's church group. She's hosting an investment seminar next week. Already 30 people signed up, mostly widows looking for fixed income. This wasn't just about my house anymore. Karen was about to destroy the retirement savings of dozens of decent people to chase her own greed. The woman who preached community standards and respectability was running what amounted to a pyramid scheme with extra HOA paperwork. That night, I made my decision. I couldn't save the board from themselves. They made that clear when they chose money over me. But I could make sure they faced consequences and protect the neighbors they were about to scam. I opened a new document. Due diligence report, Riverside Development and Pinecrest Holdings, LLC. The Denver Public Library became my war room. Every morning, I claimed the same corner table in the business section, spreading documents like battle plans. The librarian, sharp-eyed Ruth, started bringing me coffee after day 3. "Whatever you're investigating must be serious," she said, eyeing my color-coded folders. "Just doing my due diligence," I replied, highlighting another discrepancy in Riverside statements. The deeper I dug, the worse it got. The CEO wasn't just removed. He was under federal investigation for securities fraud. The environmental reports were the tip of the iceberg. The land had been a chemical plant in the 1970s. Cleanup would exceed the entire development budget. But the real smoking gun came from my own network. "Emily, wait, Sarah," James Dalton from Cloudval called. "Heard you're no longer tied to Brightwave." My stomach dropped. "James, I can explain." "No need. We resigned with them directly. But that's not why I'm calling. Someone mentioned you're looking into Riverside. Denver's business world is smaller than you think. Listen, we looked at that Pinecrest project 6 months ago. Our legal team ran fast. I can't share proprietary info, but public court records from case 2024 CV 3847 might interest you. That case was pure gold. 3 former investors suing Riverside for fraud, claiming funds from one project paid debts on another. Classic Ponzi behavior. The lawsuit was sealed, but the case number wasn't, and James had just handed me the key. I started building 2 documents. One comprehensive fraud report with verified evidence. The other a personal timeline of the board's social media posts pushing the investment. Marina called again, panic thick in her voice. "Sarah, Karen's investment seminar is tomorrow. She's promising 12% returns. Some of these women are putting in their entire life savings." "How much?" "Mrs. Patterson alone is doing $500,000. She's selling her late husband's coin collection. The new ones are using their daughter's college fund. These are good people." I thought about Mrs. Patterson, who always saved me peach cobbler at block parties, and the Newens whose daughter was first in the family headed to college. They didn't deserve to lose everything because Karen's greed had found a new outlet. "Marina, I need you to do something. Can you give me a copy of the investment packet she's showing people?" Hayes would kill me. Hayes is about to lose everything anyway. At least help me save the others. The packet landed in my inbox 2 hours later, slick, professional, and completely fraudulent. Projected returns on made-up numbers, fake testimonials, and at the bottom in tiny print Karen's signature as managing partner of Pinecrest Holdings. I cross-referenced everything. Karen wasn't just a victim. She was actively perpetuating the scam. Ignorance or malice didn't matter. She was using her HOA throne and church reputation to march dozens of neighbors off a financial cliff. That night, I met Marcus Rodriguez, the Denver Post reporter I'd been cultivating, in a dim downtown bar. My folder of evidence sat between us. "This is extensive," he said, flipping pages. "But why me? Why not the authorities? Authorities move slow. The seminar is tomorrow. By the time the SEC wakes up, the money's gone." "And the board? You realize what this will do to them?" I thought about the garbage bags on my lawn, Karen's Arctic smile, the way they'd stood united while casting me out. They removed me from the equation. I'm just returning the favor. Marcus studied me. "This is revenge." "No, revenge would be letting them lose everything quietly. This is justice. Those retirees don't deserve to suffer for the board's greed. I'll verify independently. Can't run a story this big on one source. I have 3 other sources ready, former Riverside employees, burned investors, even someone from the Attorney General's office. I slid him a contact list. They're expecting your call. He pocketed it. If this checks out, we could run online by tomorrow morning. But Sarah, once this goes public, there's no taking it back. Good, I said, finishing my whiskey. Some things shouldn't be taken back. As I walked back to Lena's, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I opened it. Heard you've been asking questions about our investment. Stop now, or we'll take legal action. Dr. Reynolds. I screenshot it and added it to the folder. Then texted Marcus. They know I'm digging. How soon can you publish? His reply was instant. First thing tomorrow, 6 a.m. Be ready for fallout. I looked at the clock. 8 hours until the board's empire of lies came crashing down. 8 hours until the woman who'd preached community values while selling out the neighborhood would watch her reputation burn. 8 hours until justice. I slept better than I had in weeks. The article dropped at 6:03 a.m. with a headline that made my phone explode. Local HOA promotes fraudulent investment scheme targeting retirees. Marcus had done his homework. Every fact verified, every source double-checked. The Pinecrest name appeared 17 times. By 7 a.m., it was trending on Denver Reddit. By 8, 3 local stations had picked it up. Karen's seminar was scheduled for 10. I wondered if anyone would show. My phone rang. Dr. Reynolds, voice cracking with surgeon-level rage. What did you do? I didn't write the article. But you fed them everything. Marcus Rodriguez called my partners. Do you have any idea what this means for my practice? Did you have any idea what it meant to throw me out like garbage? That's different. Is it? You made a business decision. So did I. He hung up. Attorney Lang called next, threatening lawsuits, defamation, restraining orders. I let her rant, making agreeable noises. When she ran out of legal ammo, I spoke. Lang, did you actually read the environmental report on that land? Silence. Because as an attorney, steering client money into a project on contaminated soil without disclosure is what's the word? Desperate. She hung up faster than Reynolds. Hayes texted, Marina's leaving me. Taking the kids. Hope you're happy. I wasn't happy, but I wasn't sad either. I felt clean, like after a fever breaks. The real fireworks hit at 9:47 a.m., 13 minutes before Karen's seminar. The Colorado Attorney General's office issued a cease and desist against Pinecrest Holdings and Riverside Development. Someone, Marcus' article had been careful not to name who, had provided them with comprehensive evidence of investment fraud. I sat in the coffee shop across from the community center, watching through the window. Cars pulled up, confused elderly couples checked phones, then drove away. Mrs. Patterson arrived in her ancient Buick, read something, sat for 10 minutes, and left. The Newans never showed. At 10:15, Karen emerged, phone pressed to her ear, face a mask of fury even from across the street. Dr. Reynolds' BMW screeched in, followed by Attorney Lang's Tesla. No haze. They huddled, gesturing wildly, their perfect board facade cracking in real time. My phone buzzed. An unknown number, but the area code was Karen's church. Sarah, this is Pastor Williams. I just wanted to thank you. Mrs. Patterson called me in tears, happy tears. Said if not for that article, she'd have lost everything. The Newans too. Sometimes the Lord works through difficult channels. Karen's going to leave your church over this. Perhaps, but 30 families won't lose their life savings. I'd say that's a worthwhile trade. I watched the board's impromptu crisis meeting dissolve into what looked like a screaming match. Attorney Lang threw her hands up and stormed to her car. Dr. Reynolds appeared to be on the phone with his lawyer. Karen stood alone, still clutching her phone, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. Another call came through. James from Cloud Vault. Sarah, I don't know if you've heard, but Bright Wave just imploded. They were cooking books. We're pulling our contract. My stomach dropped. James, which is why I'm calling. We need someone to run our marketing integration internally. Someone who understands the business, has the technical knowledge, and frankly someone with the guts to do the right thing even when it costs them. Interested? Are you offering me a job? I'm offering you director of marketing, 70% raise from your Brightwave salary, plus actual equity. And Sarah, it's a real job at a real company with a real future. I looked across the street. Karen had finally spotted me through the coffee shop window. Our eyes met. She stood frozen, phone in hand, her carefully constructed world in ruins. Yes, I said to James, not breaking eye contact with the woman who tried to erase me. I'm interested. Karen started walking toward the coffee shop. I pulled out my laptop and opened James's official offer letter. By the time she pushed through the door, I was reviewing the compensation package. You destroyed us, she said, standing over my table. The shop had gone quiet, everyone pretending not to stare. No, I replied, not looking up. You destroyed yourselves. I just made sure you didn't take innocent neighbors with you. Those were good investments. Those were fraud, Karen. And you knew it, or should have. Attorney Lang certainly did. Dr. Reynolds had to know the numbers didn't add up. You just thought you were too important, too respectable to get caught. We're your community. Now I looked up. Were. You made that very clear when you packed my life into garbage bags. That was different. That was teaching you responsibility. That was greed. You seized my house and cut me out because you wanted all the money for yourselves. You made your choice. Now live with the consequences. The news cycle devoured the story with ruthless efficiency. Prominent Pinecrest HOA exposed an investment scandal became local surgeon under investigation for financial fraud by noon. By evening, Attorney Lang's firm issued a statement distancing themselves. The Colorado Medical Board announced they were reviewing Dr. Reynolds' license. I didn't celebrate. I worked, signed a Cloud Vault contract, found a small apartment in Capitol Hill, and started rebuilding while the board collapsed in real time on social media. The Denver Post ran a follow-up 3 days later with a devastating detail. Riverside Development had declared bankruptcy, taking all investor funds with it. $3.2 million gone. But the real destruction came from the SEC investigation. Someone, the article was careful not to speculate who, had provided federal investigators with internal Pinecrest Holdings documents showing the board had knowingly misrepresented the investment to neighbors. The evidence included emails where Attorney Lang advised how to word things to avoid technical violations, and Dr. Reynolds spreadsheets showing projected returns he knew were impossible. Marina sent me a text. Hey, serve with papers. SEC freezing assets. Kids and I are safe at my mom's. Thank you for trying to warn us. Karen's church friends turned their backs. The country club revoked her membership pending investigation. The society pages that once featured her charity work now documented her fall from grace. The woman who'd built her entire identity on neighborhood respectability watched both evaporate like morning mist. 2 weeks after the article, she called from a blocked number. The house settlement is frozen. The authorities think it's proceeds from fraud. It probably is, legally speaking. I'm going to lose everything. Yes, your father would be ashamed of you. I laughed, surprising myself. Dad would be ashamed of you. You took the home he helped me buy and tried to turn it into blood money. You used his memory to convince neighbors to trust you, then led them to financial slaughter. I was trying to build something. You were trying to prove you were smarter, more practical, more successful. But Dad died loved. You're going to die alone. I'm still your HOA president. No, you're someone who gave birth to the illusion of community. Presidents don't throw homeowners away when they become inconvenient. Silence stretched. I could hear her breathing, ragged. The FBI wants a deal. If I cooperate, they'll recommend probation instead of prison. You should take it. Lang says we should fight. Lang is going to be disbarred within 6 months. I wouldn't take her legal advice. How did you know about the environmental reports, the contaminated soil? I did my due diligence, something none of you bothered with because you were blinded by greed and the need to exclude me. Another pause. The investigators say someone sent them a complete package. Every document, every email, professional quality, like someone who knew exactly what prosecutors would need. Sounds like someone did their job. It was you. Prove it. She laughed then, bitter and broken. You learned well, better than I taught you. Apparently, I learned that community isn't about dues or bylaws. It's about choice. And you chose to unmake us as a community. I just finished what you started. I'll never forgive you. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking for anything. That's the freedom you gave me when you threw me away. I don't need anything from you anymore. The call ended. It would be your last. The next morning, the Denver Post ran another story. Pinecrest HOA president agrees to cooperate with federal investigation. The article included a photo from Karen's booking. She looked exactly like what she was, the 63-year-old woman who'd gambled everything on greed and lost. Dr. Reynolds' practice partners forced him out. His ex-wife successfully petitioned to revisit custody, citing financial irresponsibility. Attorney Lang's husband withdrew from his judgeship consideration and filed for separation. Architect Hayes managed to keep his job, but Marina never came back. The board that had stood so united against me fractured into individual disasters, each scrambling to save themselves. I submitted my evidence anonymously to every relevant authority: the SEC, FBI, State Attorney General, IRS. The package was so comprehensive, so meticulously organized that prosecutors would later call it the most thorough whistleblower file they'd ever received. 3 months later, I ran into Mrs. Patterson at the grocery store. She hugged me, tears in her eyes. "You saved us," she whispered. "All of us. We would have lost everything." "You should thank the Denver Post," I said. "They broke the story." She pulled back, studying my face. "Karen says you destroyed the neighborhood out of spite." "What do you think?" She patted my cheek gently the way she used when I was young. "I think you learned the difference between what looks respectable and what actually is. That's a hard lesson. Your father will be proud." As she walked away, I realized she was right. Dad would be proud, not of revenge, but of the courage to stand alone rather than stand with corruption. He'd always said integrity meant doing the right thing, even when it cost you everything. It had cost me a neighborhood that was never really mine. In return, I'd gained something infinitely more valuable: freedom from needing their approval. The math, as Karen would say, was simple. The math was perfect. 6 months after that grocery store encounter, I sat in my new office at Cloud Vault, watching the Denver skyline shimmer in the afternoon sun. The director of marketing nameplate on my desk still felt surreal. My team had just landed 3 major contracts, and James had mentioned the word VP in our last meeting. Success, it turned out, tasted better when you earned it without begging for approval. My assistant knocked. "Sarah, someone's here to see you." "Says it's personal." Architect Hayes stood in my doorway, looking like he'd aged a decade in 6 months. His designer clothes were gone, replaced by off-the-rack business casual. The confident board member who'd helped load my life into garbage bags was nowhere to be seen. "Can we talk?" I gestured to a chair. He sat carefully. "I came to apologize," he said, "and to warn you." "Warn me?" Karen's plea deal fell through. Riverside's executives are claiming she was the mastermind, that she knew about the contamination and recruited investors anyway. Lang is testifying against her to save herself. Reynolds already took a deal. Karen's looking at 5 to 7 years. I felt nothing, no satisfaction, no regret, just clean emptiness. "And you?" "Probation, community service. Marina and I are trying counseling." But he shrugged. "She can't forget that I chose money over my neighbor. Funny thing is, there's no money left anyway." "Why are you really here, Hayes?" He pulled out an envelope, worn and yellow with age. "I found this cleaning out Karen's house. It's being sold to pay legal fees." Inside was a letter in Dad's handwriting, dated a month before he died. "My dear Sarah, if you're reading this, Karen has probably done something unforgivable. She loves differently than I do, conditionally, strategically. But you, my youngest homeowner in spirit, you have my heart. You see people, not their potential value. You create instead of calculate. I'm leaving you something Karen doesn't know about. A small trust fund I set up through my brother. It's not much, 50,000, but it's yours alone. The papers are with Uncle Stephen. Karen can't touch it. Don't let them make you small. You were born to be extraordinary on your own terms. Love, Dad. I read it twice, then looked at Hayes. You could have kept this. I've taken enough from you. He stood to leave, then paused. That day with the garbage bags, I wanted to stop her. We all did in a way, but she had this hold on us, this way of making wrong things seem necessary. You broke that spell. I just told the truth. Yeah. Turns out that's the most dangerous thing you can do to people living a lie. After he left, I called Uncle Stephen in Portland. He confirmed the trust existed and had actually grown to 73,000 with interest. Dad had made him promise to release it only if I came asking or if something happened that separated me from the neighborhood. He knew, Stephen said. Somehow he knew this day would come. The final scene came 3 weeks later at Karen's sentencing. I didn't plan to attend, but Marina called, said Hayes needed someone there who wasn't involved in the crime. So I sat in the back row watching Karen in an orange jumpsuit as the judge read her sentence. 6 years federal prison, 3 years supervised release, restitution of $1.2 million she didn't have. As the bailiff prepared to lead her away, she turned, scanning the courtroom. Our eyes met. For a moment I saw something flicker. Not regret exactly, but recognition. She had taught me that community was about power, control, and strategic value. I'd learned the lesson perfectly, just not the way she intended. I stood and walked out before they took her away. No dramatic last words, no confrontation, just a clean exit, like closing a book you'll never read again. Outside the courthouse, Denver stretched bright and alive under a perfect blue sky. My phone buzzed with a text from my team about our latest campaign going viral, another from Lena about dinner plans, one from James confirming the VP position was official. I had built a life on my own terms with people who valued me for who I was, not what I could provide. The neighborhood that had thrown me away like garbage was gone, replaced by something genuine and chosen. The irony wasn't lost on me. Karen had removed me from the equation to protect the HOA's wealth. Instead, she'd freed me to become wealthy in success, in relationships, in self-worth, while she lost everything she'd schemed to protect. I walked toward my car, designer heels clicking on the pavement. Behind me, the courthouse doors closed with a definitive thud. Ahead, Denver's afternoon sun painted everything gold, warm and welcoming. I didn't look back. There was nothing there worth seeing. The girl who'd returned from Seattle to find her life in garbage bags was gone. In her place stood a woman who'd learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying those who hurt you. It's building something beautiful from the ashes they left behind. And if that happened to destroy them in the process, well, as Karen always said, that's just smart community planning. Thank you so much for listening to this HOA Karen story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this tale of homeowners association drama and sweet justice resonated with you, please subscribe and share your thoughts. What would you have done in Sarah's situation? Looking forward to reading every single perspective.